Hey everyone, this is Mason Hutchison, and welcome back to Herb Rally, your daily herbal podcast. We come out with new episodes about 5 days a week, so be sure to tune in often. Our goal for the show is to help you along your herbalist journey no matter what stage you're at. We have over 631 episodes, so feel free to peruse those episodes. You're bound to find something of interest. Today's episode is another Herbalist Hour interview, and this one is with my good buddy, Jesse Wolf Hardin. And just at the very top of the show, I want to mention, because this isn't actually talked about in the show, you may know about this if you listen to our Good Medicine Confluence roundtable a couple episodes back, but we're doing a giveaway for the Good Medicine Confluence, which is one of the events that Wolf is the co-organizer for, along with Kiva Rose and their daughter Inga Hardin. And yeah, so we're giving away 4 tickets to the Good Medicine Confluence. This is July 18th to the 22nd in Lake George, Colorado. And along with the 4 tickets to the Good Medicine Confluence, we're also going to throw in, Herb Rally is going to throw in 4 free full year memberships to the Herb Rally Schoolhouse. That's our membership site. If you want to learn more about that, you could go to herbrally.com/schoolhouse. So I will leave a link to enter to win in the right at the tippy top of the podcast show notes. It's very easy. All you have to do is enter your name and email. But for full instructions and details, just check out the link that I'll be leaving at the top of the show notes, the podcast show notes. I would request that if you are entering to win, that you do it presuming that you're actually able to make the conference, because we want to make sure that whoever wins the giveaway is actually able to go, that way not taking away the opportunity from someone else. So that's all I really have to say about that. I really enjoyed this conversation with Wolf. I was able to ask him questions that I've been wanting to ask him for years now, including like his relationship to the author Edward Abbey, his experience in the Northwest back in the 80s, but we also chat about a bunch of philosophical things such as death and dying, and just a whole lot more. He co-owns Plant Healer magazine, so him and Kiva have been providing the herbal community with lots of great herbal content for many years now. In fact, when I first started working at Mountain Rose Herbs back in the day, Plant Healer magazine was one of the first publications I really remember reading. So yeah, I think that'll do it for me today. If you have a minute, please consider leaving us some sort of Apple podcast ranking and review, or Spotify, or whatever podcast player you use. It really helps out the discoverability of the show, and we really appreciate it. Also, before I let you go, I want to let you know that all of these interviews for the Herbalist Hour are also available on our YouTube channel. So if you want to check out our YouTube channel, we come out with anywhere from like say 1 to 5, sometimes 1 to 3. Just depends on the week, but we come out with 1 to 3 videos per week, herbalism videos. So if you want to check out more great herbal content, check out our Herb Rally YouTube channel, along with all of the video interviews to the Herbalist Hour. So now that's really going to do it for me today. Thanks so much for listening to me ramble yet again, and enjoy this interview with Jesse Wolf Hardin. All right, talk to you later.
Welcome to the Herbalist Hour. This is where community gather, merging the power of people and flowers, the sweet and the bitter to the salty, the sour. Umami, it's time for the Herbalist Hour.
Welcome back to the Herbalist Hour. I've been looking forward to this interview for a long time. It's my good buddy, Jesse Wolf Hardin. And if you don't know about Wolf yet, he's a prolific author. He co-owns Plant Healer magazine, along with the conference Good Medicine Confluence, which I know we'll be getting into. He also happens to be maybe like one of the only people I know with a Wikipedia page. So that's kind of fun. So I just got to say a big welcome to you, Jesse Wolf.
Well, thank you so much, Mason.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. Usually I like to start these interviews by kind of getting to know a little bit more about the herbalist's background. I don't even know if you identify as an herbalist or not, but I actually kind of want to go a different route this time. You wrote several years back, I want to say it was on the Herbalists Without Borders, blog page. You wrote, like the dandelion, herbalism prospers, gestates, and spreads surreptitiously whenever suppressed, feeling right at home in the underground. Neither walls nor borders can restrain it. If there be but a single fissure anywhere in that which holds it down, it is through it that herbalism will surge forth into the light of day once more. So I'm just curious if you could elaborate on more on why herbalists and dandelions are kind of similar, and if you still feel like there's a resurgence in herbalism. I guess that's kind of a two-part question.
Yes, well, certainly when we got into herbalism, uh, Kiva through her personal herbal practice and healing priorities, myself through nature connection and eco-spirituality and ecological activism, which is a healing of its own. Trying to heal the planet certainly connects very tightly to healing our psyches and emotions, which connects to our healing the earth that we depend upon to live, and certainly for all the medicines that we use as herbalists. But yeah, I would say that it was, I don't know what the right term would be, but herbalism was certainly, if not suppressed, it was being ignored, trivialized, sidelined at the time that we entered it, which is now 15 years ago when we started Plant Healer. And what we wanted to do with Plant Healer was to reinvigorate what we knew to be a very empowering, necessary act in a time of pharmaceuticals. So many people basically killing themselves with the medicines that they're using, to put it back in the hands of the everyday person to be able to take responsibility for their own health and that of their families, and to do that through plants and the deep understanding of plants and a relationship to them. And since that time, herbal gatherings have increased massively. There was only like 3 or 4 at the time we started Good Medicine Confluence. There was just very little, not even a fraction of the amount of apothecaries, businesses. There were no educational portals such as Herb Rally. Basically, it was the start of a reawakening, which I think continues today. What it's branched into, rather, is more not a matter of just sideline of us lighting up and bringing back into attention plant medicine, but rather to start defining and refining our understanding of all the different types of herbalism that there can be. It's never just one kind or another. It's never just professional and certified. It's never just radical. It's never just moms in the kitchen working with medicines in their sinks. It is all those things and more. And so to throw a light on the vast diversity, so that we don't feel stuck in any one thing as we grow and build. There's no one way to be an herbalist. What there is a zillion ways that's particular and unique to the person.
Yeah, I was gonna say in your intro, I was like, you're not only the author of a ton of books, but you're also the author of some of my favorite emails. And I don't get the chance to like talk to you in this way too often. And I just I'm always delighted and surprised that you're able to speak with such eloquence in the same way that you write your emails. So very, very, very good answer. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've heard that you used to live in Eugene, Oregon, or had ties to Eugene, Oregon, and that's my hometown, as you probably know. So I was just kind of curious what a young Wolf was like living in the Northwest, or if you could kind of paint a picture of what that scene was like.
Yes, well, my Northwest phase was while I was already deeply rooted in New Mexico and at the Animal Wildlife Sanctuary and Botanical Sanctuary where we reside right now. That's nearly 50 years ago now that I moved to this wilderness. So,
Wow.
and it was in the early 1980s when I started traveling with what I called a deep ecology medicine show. Mind you, it was already called medicine, but it had to do with not just fixing the always of our bodies, but rather fixing our relationship to the natural world, to ourselves, in what I called a rewilding process, coming back into our original animal beings, aware, sentient, conscious, dream-filled, following our dreams, not letting anything get in the way of the ecstasy of what it means to be alive. So while it was couched by the authorities as a political movement to save wilderness from the industries that were destroying it, it was much more than that. It was about a great awakening. And I found the Northwest to be one of the most supportive of everywhere in the United States that I went. Environmentalism was still cool at that time. It's not so much now on campuses, considered elitist, et cetera. That's a long conversation in itself. But at the time, I was being called everywhere to universities all across the country. But it was the Northwest where I was embraced most wholeheartedly. I was supported by small farmers, by Back to the Landers, by the people at all the different schools up there, and the amount of love that I received. So I ended up spending not just long enough to do shows and inspire civil disobedience actions, or help with organizations development. But I was also there as a part of a community which shared my values, kindred tribe, and that's what I try to replicate still with our annual event. Is the feeling I got there of people that are actually connected to one another, not separated by divisions and polarities, but rather united by a love for what it means to be at one with the planet, to be doing something alternative, quote unquote, to the very boring normie stereotype, and and basically to be making a dance out of life. And so that's for me, my Northwest experience was about the actualization of what it meant to have community, not just in my mind, not just through letters to all the people that I care about, but rather actual interaction with people whose every aspect of their personal lives mattered to me. And that's a great blessing.
Yeah, I was recently asked what my favorite part about my hometown is, and I have to say, although I was joking the other day about being a recovering hippie, I have to say that my favorite part about Eugene specifically is my upbringing as like a quote unquote hippie. Like it taught me a lot about like appreciating nature and yeah, just the whole back to the land movement and everything. So, but you're no longer in Eugene. Can you tell us a bit about like the ecosystem that you're living in now? Like I got to say, your skin looks amazing. It looks way better than mine, and I know you're a little bit older than me, so there's got to be something about living in the Gila National Forest that's healthy.
Pronounced Gila, Gila, Gila.
Oh my gosh, I don't think I ever knew that. Okay, so Gila, I've only read it, so there you go.
Yeah,
Gila.
well, I was traveling everywhere in a school bus or on a chopped motorcycle as a young man. And when I came through New Mexico, I knew that I was finding something that was vibrating. They talk about resonance. Well, there was something so absolutely palpable about what this place was giving to me and the relationship I fell into with it. Yeah. I first started out in Taos, which is in the northern part of the state, because it reminded me a lot of Eugene or Ashland or different parts of the Northwest, in that it's primarily alternative people mixed with Native and Indigenous people, all of whom want to retain a culture separate from the dominant paradigm. It's a place that artists and questers and spiritual questers have gone to. The first communes were up there, etc. So that's where I started my first art gallery, which was a mystical art gallery, also meant to connect people. And it's probably where I would have chosen if I was just speaking from my mind. The first time I traveled into the southwest corner and drove up into the mountains, and I was stunned not just by the lack of civilization, which is always impressive. It's rare. It's a blessing in itself. There was no buildings, no nothing, no traffic. This long 100-mile drive into the mountains. But as I went up, it was like rising up the walls of a castle, of a mystical Hogwarts, of the opening of a portal. You could just sense that the giant volcanic purple and orange cliffs were as gates to a magical world. I was in my own RPG. I was like, the fantasies that I felt and dreamt about since I was a child this was the background for it. This was the setting. This was the place that made it possible. And everything I heard here, the wildlife, the sounds of all the animals, the sounds of the river and the wind, have become the soundtrack for that. So this is an irreplaceable experience, and I don't think my work would have ever developed in the ways that it had without that sense of belonging, that sense of place that came with coming here. Somewhere where there's hardly any human beings, but vast amounts of elk, bear, lions, and I dare say spirits, there's your hippie thing again, that absolutely will not let you shuck your bullshit, will not let you sleep at night without paying some attention to your personal needs, to your dreams, to your mission.
Yeah, what's the ecology like on your land right now? Because I think of New Mexico, and for whatever reason, I think desert, but I know that there's a lot more vibrancy than that. So there's probably a lot of trees and rivers and streams where you're at.
Well, it's probably important that we continue thinking of it as desolate desert for the sake of population. Keeping the population down would be helpful. This county has an advantage in that it's 98% of it is federal land. only 2% is private. So even if it were to become popularized, there's nowhere for humans to build endlessly. What it is a established first wilderness area in the United States, legally protected at the behest of Aldo Leopold, early conservationist. So really, it's like what they call sky islands, which is to say all around it is a desert. So you've got all the desert plants and the desert medicinal herbs, the laurea and then from there, as you're rising up, you go into pinon juniper. So it's one ecosystem after another, all the way up to, there's 12,000 foot peaks here. So we're talking about alpine and subalpine as well, above timberline and everything in between. Where the sanctuary is 5,700 feet on the edge of the Mogollon Rim near the Arizona border. And the combination as a result of that is an overlap, a combination of desert species. So we have blooming cactus right next to 200-foot ponderosa pines.
Wow.
We've got the riparian zone with the red willows and the cottonwoods, but within sight of that are these giant oaks, like you see in the fairy tales. So it's this combination of basically 3 different biomes that overlap and fuse in a single place, and only, in fact, in a 1.5 mile stretch of this river canyon. But it's when I came to it, I had no idea the singularity of it. Every year I've been here has driven home not just how amazing it is and how full of biota, and greenery and diversity, but also how it manages to combine the elements, just as I try to do with my life and my cause and with Plant Healer, how to combine all these things into a larger ecosystem that's founded in diversity and vitality. And this land is the example of it.
Hey everyone, it's Mason. Just a quick interruption from the show to let you know about our 13 herbal freebies. If you go to herbalist.com, on the navigation bar at the top of the page, you'll see a button that says freebies. Just click there and you'll sign up for our email newsletter. And in exchange, we're offering 13 herbal freebies. That's ebooks, webinars, videos, downloadable audio, and discounts to cool herbal companies. So if you'd like to check out these freebies, as well as sign up for our email newsletter, we update you about current events, new monographs, new videos, etc. Just go to herbalist.com and click on the button at the top of the page that simply says freebies. Okay, that's it from me. Now back to the show. Yeah, I remember on our road trip, we were like, oh yeah, we'll try to swing by for the day. And I realized if we're going to visit Wolf and Kiva, we're going to have to make a few days out of it, especially if we're trying to tow along a 30-foot RV going through that wilderness area. I know we got to cross like 4 rivers and take the ATVs to get to your property. So maybe next time, and probably not in the winter time, maybe we'll aim for like a spring summer situation. But speaking of questions I've always wanted to ask you, I feel like maybe you or someone told me you had some sort of relationship with the author Edward Abbey. And I was just wondering if that's true, first of all, and if so, what was your relationship like? Like, how did you meet him and all that?
Well, I guess it basically goes back to the foundation of a radical environmental group, the first to be pushing biodiversity ahead of human interests and not be discussing ecology or environmentalism as strictly a matter of pollution in cities and safe water for humans to drink, but rather the actual context of the entire ecosystem, which humans depend upon no matter how we're encapsulated in cities. And that group is called Earth First. It's very controversial and in many different ways. Yeah. But Ed Abbey was sort of a guiding light for it. His books, The Monkey Wrench Gang in particular, but all of his books, Abbey's Road is nonfiction. The way he spoke about the wilds became iconic for a large percentage of the people that were involved with Earth First at that time. I got to meet him as a result of speaking on the same stage about these same kinds of issues. His irreverence, his ill humor really is what, as much as what delighted me about him as anything else. He was not only a proponent of nature, but he was someone that was willing to stick it in the eye of the establishment over and over again. That doesn't mean he wasn't, sexist, that he didn't have some weird ideas about culture and cultural superiorities, etc. But for all of his weird opinions and flaws, he was a creative genius who helped inspire all the people that I knew at the time, and certainly myself, into in a humorous way, as well, in a delightful way, taking on what's this behemoth that we call civilization, and proposing something like a return to wildness, a return to what it means to be creatures on a planet.
Yeah, just to give you props and credit, you kind of alluded to it earlier, but it's my understanding that you essentially coined the phrase rewilding. And so I guess, were you using that term when you were speaking on the stage with, say, Edward Abbey?
Yes, since 1978, when I first came up with it. In recent years, rewildings, if you look it up online and various videos, it is almost entirely now a reference to taking a landscape that's already been highly impacted, trees cut, whatever, but pollution, mining tailings, whatever, and doing restoration work to return it to something of somewhat representative of what it was prior to the Western colonial culture coming and destroying it as they have.
Mm-hmm.
But in the original coining of the term, I meant not only allowing the natural world to rewild itself through its processes, backing off enough to let it blossom and let nature be nature, right? But also that we needed that for ourselves. And in fact, it was impossible to protect the natural world as a conservationist or whatever without also affecting humanity and how humans perceive themselves. If we see ourselves as separate from the natural world, it doesn't matter how much we hear about Earth Day or climate change. We're going to go on our merry way until there's no more way ahead. If we see ourselves as a part of a family of life, as your lover, as your children, as your closest friends, as your elders, then you're going to take care of it under all circumstances. You're going to make some choices that may be hard for you in your lifestyle, but that benefit the planet as a whole. And so rewilding for me meant then, and still means now, that we each return to our original being and then allow the earth to return to its original being.
I suspect we'll delve more into that later, because I do have a couple questions surrounding that. But just as a testament, I got to say, the whole rewilding philosophy has been crucial in my mental health, my physical health, my spiritual health, just based purely on, I still am like a tech person. Obviously, we're on computers right now, but the more time I spend in nature, it's just like, it's very obvious what the benefits have. And that's including, like, say, eating wild foods. I feel like that has been highly beneficial for me. I know that the wild foods are much more nutritious, say, than a lot of cultivated foods. But yeah, so thanks for helping pioneer that movement. That was huge for me. I guess speaking of meeting people, I don't think I've ever heard the story. If you're willing to share, I would love to know how you and Kiva met.
Well, we had a common friend, and I was also putting out the word everywhere that I was looking for somebody that was crazy enough to live with a wild mountain man like me in the middle of nowhere, in a place that floods half the year and you have to swim in to get to your home. And she filled the bill in every which way. It put an end to all my search, which I've always phrased my romantic endeavors in the years previous as part of a search, and certainly it put an end to that. The fact that that she has been loyal to this place as well as to me is huge, and we connected through a bratty intemperance that we apply to everything we do.
Yeah.
So our herbalism, our lifestyle, our attitudes, the dark ironic humor that we often use certainly with each other. All of that is a part of it. Sets the tone for the way we approach the world, which is that don't turn your back on any of the darkness, and certainly don't look away from the light and from the beauty, but just take our bumbling sack of meat selves through that with all the dexterity, all the awareness, and all the humor and joy that we possibly can muster. And that's what it's been all about for us. That's why for years we called the Plant Healer Quarterly magazine the magazine Different, as the subtitle.
I love
which
that.
Means not better than other herbal endeavors, just weird as hell.
Oh, well, as I was mentioning earlier, your emails to me over the years have been some of my favorite emails to get. And a lot of times, we'll chit chat about personal stuff, like relationship stuff. And it's always kind of inspired me to keep it rolling. So yeah, you and Kiva are definitely an inspiration in that regard. So I've always appreciated you sharing that type of stuff. So thank you for that. And somehow this whole time, I never knew that the subtitle of the Plant Healer magazine was a magazine different. I somehow missed that this whole time, but it's true. And a lot of time I'll like say I credit like John Gallagher and Learning Herbs with a lot of my inspiration, but truly Plant Healer magazine and the way that y'all run things, you really focus on highlighting all of the different characters, the weird characters in the herbal community. And that's really what Herb Rally does too, is I know you all have like a herb shop list somewhere on your website. And like you really just try to highlight these various different herbalists. So I have to say, just like right now, if you're listening and you're not already subscribed to Herbaria, it's a free monthly publication that comes out, I want to say every month. It's just always like 50 to 80 pages long, and I don't know how y'all do it, but it's very impressive. So if you like Herb Rally stuff, you're definitely going to love the Plant Healer stuff, such as, of course, the books, but then the online magazine Herbaria as well. So yeah, I guess transitioning from that, y'all also run an event. It's called the Good Medicine Confluence. It's had other names over the years, Herbal Resurgence Rendezvous, if I recall correctly. There were some other ones too, but anyways, I've had the pleasure of attending, I want to say twice. I was actually at the one that you and Kiva got like officially married at, which was super cool, or maybe it was unofficially, I don't know, but I was there for the celebration. Why don't we take a little bit to kind of talk about the mission of the conference, as well, the confluence, as well as just what people could expect, the location, teachers, etc.
Well, we're very pleased this year. It's July 18th through 22nd. And most often we have been at either school campuses, other places that weren't quite as wild as the one that we have now. It's actually a nature retreat center, Puma Hills Nature Retreat Center. It's only an hour and a half drive from the Denver airport. And yet it's way out in the forest. We'll have the entire facility to ourselves. There'll be no other groups there. And it will just be the community of plant healers coming together to network, to learn, and to play and celebrate. So it's going to be a grand 4 to 5 days, 108 classes, over half of them hands-on experience, whether it's working with making medicine, essential oils, whatever it is. Half of them actually involve audience participation. All of them are amazing. In the applications we send out to teachers over the past 13 years, it emphasizes don't do your shtick. Don't do what you do everywhere else.
Yeah.
Don't do what people expect. Do what most challenges you, most excites you, what keeps you up at night. I want to see the edge. I want to see the frontier, the neglected ancient traditions, the new alchemical ways of looking at the world and how we can change it. And that's what teachers have brought to us yet again this year. We have an amazing lineup of topics as well as teachers listed on the website.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. I was looking at the teacher list the other day because in a couple days we'll be doing like a little bit of a round table with various of the teachers from the conference. So stay tuned for that on the Herbalist Hour as well. That the venue sounds awesome. I like that you highlighted that it's just going to be just your community. Whereas, a lot of times say on various campuses, there might be other events going on and that might distract from the overall feel, but I bet that's going to really create like this magical experience. Are y'all going to be doing like, say, the masquerade ball and all that stuff again, or?
Absolutely. That's central.
Yeah, totally.
Especially after days and days of these in-depth classes, these challenging new ideas, and just that amount of learning, to have one night where we can just kick it out and let it all go is absolutely essential. And this year we're going to bring Queen of Air back,
Mm.
setting tribal beats with nature sounds, and just have people there in their costumes representing their wildest selves, plant, fairy, or otherwise, and basically dancing to the beat of a new way of being.
Just to throw some dates at the audience, it's July 18th to the 22nd. And like you said, that's an hour and a half away from Denver, called Lake George, Colorado. Yeah, I was kind of curious, first of all, how many books you've written, but also just like if you want to tell the audience some of the books you've written about and that kind of thing over the years.
Yeah, I think well, close to a dozen I've written myself, and then of course Kiva and I worked on these compilations, which is exciting as the ones that are just all my words, or all my words and hers, because it brings in all the different Plant Healer contributors that have been in the Plant Healer Quarterly over the years, writing about specific subjects in way more depth than what you'll find in a normal magazine. So it's 250 pages average every issue, right? And that's to give platform to all these different people. And the same people that come to teach for us are people that contribute essays to the magazine. Herbaria only exists so that there's a free publication that people don't have to pay for. Doesn't support us, but it's our chance to continue supporting everybody.
Yeah, again, I feel like there's overlaps between Herbalist and Plant Healer, because yeah, I really, our whole goal is to provide as much free information as possible, but it's like at the same time, well, we have to pay the bill somehow, and like Mountain Rose Herbs isn't paying me anymore, so I gotta figure something out. So a huge thanks and a shout out to our schoolhouse members. So like your support means everything to us. So yeah, go ahead and support Plant Healer as well. You know, get on their mailing list and learn more through Herbaria. Oh, I had this question for you. This is fun. This is actually an audience submitted question. I think you would have a pretty good answer to this. So, what does the herbal industry need most right now, or herbal community, if you will, besides more herbalists?
Well, more freedom from impending regulation would be nice.
Yeah.
But really, it isn't about what herbalism needs. It's what herbalists need. There will always be people that love plants so much that they're going to risk low income. They're going to take chances starting businesses. They're going to teach people for nothing. They're going to help not only their family, but everybody on the block, everybody in their neighborhood. That will always exist. The information is out there like it's never been before. I think we're not short on information right now. But what we need is networking and self-belief and empowerment. So we need to believe in ourselves, believe in our dreams, believe that we're worthy of sharing that information, passing it on, being teachers, being healers. If you only know about one plant, you only know about the one action of one plant, then you have something to share and teach that can benefit somebody else. Compound that by all the things you know about that plant. Compound the number of plants over the years that you have experience with, and that just increases. So herbalism isn't something that you simply add letters at the end of your name. It is something that you are the moment that you love herbs enough, healing medicine enough, to give yourself to it and to share it with those around you, and to help the world with what you know. And so what's needed is not specifics like more information or even better business principles or more opportunities. All of that exists right now. What we need is to believe in ourselves, to have an ethic, to network with one another and create a community, and to not let fears of not fitting in, fears of being on the outside, alternative, any fears of not making enough money, of not getting parental improvement, go past all of that and run full speed into the world of plants. That's what's needed right now. It's what's always been needed.
Wait, are you talking directly to me? Is this your pitch? Is this your pitch for me to teach at the Good Medicine Confluence? I can't tell.
Everything is.
I am scared shitless to do public teaching. It's always been innate in me, and I admire the people that are able to move past the fear and just do it because their soul feels called to do it. I'll give myself a pat on the back and props for moving forward. Just say even the Herbalist Hour, because getting on the camera and talking to the public this way has been a challenge in itself. The way I'm looking at a lot of this work that I'm doing is like soul evolution and short little steps to fully realizing what I'm meant to do. But yes, I say in the year 2032, I'll be a teacher at the Good Medicine Confluence. I'll see you then.
2032, I should live so long.
uh,
Remember, one of my teachings is now. It all happens right now. And frankly, nobody lives long enough to delay. The world's going through too many changes to delay. The world's very sick and in need of healing. There's really no time but to fulfill and manifest all that you can be today, now. And I believe that being on camera does that already. It doesn't replace teaching in person. But you should know, sir, that being in front of people is actually easier than being in front of a camera because you have constant feedback. You can see in their faces what their needs are, what hurts, what they connect with, what they don't connect with, what they're wondering about. You need to give them more. It's all right there. It's biofeedback in the flesh. You do so great on camera, you will do wonders in person. And there's nobody that listens to this that doesn't have the capacity to be teachers. Even if it's while standing in line at Whole Foods Market, you have something to impart. And because you care, because your information is real and valid and has effects, you can give that without any reservations whatsoever.
All right, you hear that, dear listener? That's aimed at you too. So get out there and go teach. I just want to quickly plug my friend Logan Keister. I'm really proud of him. I guess he's on your teacher faculty for this year's event. He's a fellow Northwesterner from the Eugene area, and I've seen his progression of teaching over the past couple of years, and I'm always really impressed by him, and I'm super stoked that y'all were picked him up as a teacher. Have you had a chance to talk to him at all, or just kind of seen his application?
Well, through emails, but not nearly enough. I'm going to interview him at some point, and he's submitting articles for the magazine. But no, it was on your recommendation, actually. Yeah. And what little I was able to find of his and read, he's a perfect fit, which is to say he's a misfit. Yeah. His interests and combination of interests and his approach and his personality all make him stand out, and that's really what we try to do for everybody. It's like, it's not this herbalism isn't this mass field of unidentified yellow flowers. There's all these different species, and amongst those species are all these differences. And what kind of soil they're in changes the way that their petals manifest and the tones of their colors. And everything can stand out individually and probably should best to be themselves stand out. And that's the kind of teachers we have. It's the kind of people that come. And we're very happy to have Logan as a part of that.
I love it. Have you heard the term DYC before?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, it might be made up by Howie Brownstein. I'm not 100%, but that's called a damn yellow composite, which is just the vast amounts of yellow flowers. That's what that reminded me of.
Yes, and really, there is no such thing as sameness amongst any of them. Yeah. Any more than snowflakes all look alike. So really, what it does is it begs us to pay more attention, to walk out of the flowers and not just look at them online or at a distance. We're not there for selfies. We're there to engage, to be aware of, to have communion with, to learn the lessons of, and then to pass on the medicines of the flowers that were around.
I love it. Yeah, when I'm walking down the street and someone's like, "That's a dandelion," I'm like, "That's Hypocaris radicata. That's the false dandelion. Don't you know these things?" All right. Well, yeah, so cool. Moving on. You've got a kiddo, and I'm probably going to mispronounce his name. Is it Aelfin?
That's pretty close. It's the AE together, the old English spelling. Ale, like ale. You drink ale.
So yeah, sure.
Ale, and add fin, like a good Finnish man.
I love it. He's a cute little kiddo, and I'm just curious, just knowing your expertise, and your philosophical background, do you have hope moving forward, hope for the future, do you have for Aelfin, like is there anything that's bringing you hope? Are you are you like bummed for his future, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I can't think of a time in human history, certainly not civilized history, where I wouldn't have great concerns about the world he's growing up in.
Sure.
It might be the Inquisition I'm worried about nabbing him. It might be the fact that we're destroying all the forests for mass on the English fleets, and there's not going to be any forests left to sustain us. Well, I could go on and on. Probably there's never been a scarier time, both in terms of culture and how fast culture changes and the direction it's going, directions, I should say, since it's polarization, and in science. I mean, everything from artificial intelligence to nuclear conflagration and the way we're pushing our weight around the world today. All of that are greatly concerning. Endangered species dying and going extinct, the well-being of plants, even the fate of herbalism and whether or not we're allowed to do it. There's so many things to worry about, and yet the challenges will be the same for him that it always has been, which is how do we, in a world of great challenges that calls upon us to be as maximally in our body and in our consciousness and in our caring as possible, and in cultures that are often trying to lead us astray into whether it's authoritarianism or dogma or all these other things. How can we determine a reality for ourselves? How can we become ourselves within that reality in a way that's meaningful, significant, and gives back? We can do that through religiosity, through an earth-based spirituality is what we do. We can do it through service, such as you do, all the ways that you should give back. But to find ways in which to, in the moment, what are the options? And every single day, whether it's now or 50 years from now, whether it's when people are pointing missiles at each other, or still trying to get in a crop, with hand tools 1,000 years ago, it's the same thing. It's how can we A, be ourselves, B, survive, and C, find ways to give back and have a beautiful moment. The one thing I like a lot of things about Eastern religion, as forceful as I can be in terms of political change, but I like the idea that you really only have the now. And already my son has had and given to me moments that are far more fulfilling and exemplary and exciting and incomprehensible sometimes, and just amazing and mystical than I could ever imagine. Every moment that he has is a blessing that we gave him by deliberately having him. It was actually my first child where it wasn't just another great surprise, but rather something we tried very hard to make happen. Yeah. And I don't regret that decision for a moment. We gave him a life of possibility, and no matter how difficult the world ever is, he has a chance to be different from the worst of it and to enjoy the best of it.
Well, I'm very encouraged for Aelfin, knowing his parents are badasses and very unique people, and he's got a really cool place to grow up and away from all the city life and all that. So I wasn't going to plan on asking you this, but what do you think our purpose as humans is? Are we here to evolve and grow and change? And do you believe in any sort of like energetic afterlife or anything like that? Or is that, I don't know if that's beyond the scope of what you're willing to talk about for the podcast, but I'm genuinely curious, just based again, like on all of your life experience, what you've come to.
Well, based on a deep understanding of history, I would say that humans have not demonstrated a specific purpose, certainly not a benevolent one. I think what happens is that we individually have a purpose in reaction to being part of a species that, like all species, grows up as a great experiment, and then what works continues working and the species survives, or doesn't work anymore and the species either adapts or dies out. We can talk about like the ancient giant Irish elk, for example, that went extinct. For the longest time, growing the horns on their heads allowed them to show the dominance in the mating rituals, pass on the strongest genes and make great strong children, to dig up the lichen underneath the crust of the snow. It was an advantage to hold off predators. But eventually it got so large that the very neck bones of vertebrae could not support the weight of it. So they were doomed by a process of change, which they could not consciously and responsibly react to. The fate of humanity would be the same if we don't take responsibility for the kinds of changes that we are making and to act accordingly for the good of our own survival and for the planet's. So I would say that we are a magnificent mistake full of full of wondrous blessings. I mean, what other creature can tell fantastic stories, whether true or not? You know, not, not even artificial intelligence, which now can write scripts and make art, could exist without the creative spark of the human mind. So what we brought to the table isn't always as noble or as elegant as what other wild creatures, other animals and plants demonstrate. But it is unique and excitingly unique in a way that's unprecedented prior to humanity. What we do that will either be to cause massive destruction, as we have to the planet, and then eventually end our own possibilities of human survival, at which point the planet will re-inhabit itself with other ever more conscious beings, because the evolutionary drive is for development of life, and the deeper drive, what we call a spiritual drive, is for it to become more conscious, more aware, more embodied, you know, and more able to move amongst the realms that are not just defined by the physical world.
Any thoughts on like what happens after we pass away?
Well, certainly plenty of thoughts and never any certainty.
Sure.
I know at the best I will have some consciousness. We would each have consciousness that made us aware both of the mistakes we made, the experiences we've had, the lessons that come from it, and be aware of how that's been transmitted into the world and what's happening to what we love, the plants, the gardens, the children that we love, that we gave birth to, the grandkids that we haven't met yet. At best, that would be the scenario. Probably at the worst, the scenario is that we become reassimilated just as nutrients when you biodigest material in your compost. You know, we are reassimilated into the whole of the Gaian planet, and not just the nutrients that we are, the actual, you know, the calories that can be had from our body and the calcium in our bones, but rather the spirit of what it meant for us to be alive becomes this impregnating force within this larger context, with this vat of material. There's an anonymity to that that's scary. You have to take a philosophical approach to it to find it positive, that your identity as an individual is lost to the identity of the whole. But certainly one thing is true, no matter which scenario we talk about, that we don't disappear. We're never insignificant. It's not that we don't matter. We remain a part of this. We were a part of it before we were born. We were a part of this living, Gaian, planetary, and spirited whole long after our personal individual deaths. And that's something that gives me, you know, great satisfaction. I can't guarantee my effect or even how I'll be read or seen or interpreted. What I can't guarantee the health of our children, the well-being of our children, and the world that they'll face. I certainly can guarantee that nothing about us is diminished, that everything we have is significant, that we can set it towards a purpose that is wondrous, ethical, beautiful, and it benefits the planet as much as any artwork or any blossoming flower ever has. That is a purpose worth being alive for, whether you're an individual or a species.
I'm glad I asked. Yeah, I'm encouraged, and I'm glad to know that, well, we don't know anything, but it feels as if we're here to do something, and hopefully it's not all pointless and we're not just nutrients floating around in space. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. This is an herb show, a plant show, theoretically. So I'm curious if you have any current favorite plant allies, whether you're using internally, say the tincture, or just a plant that's bringing you joy right now.
That makes a very difficult question. I certainly have some plants and trees that I'm more allied with, feel more attached to on a spiritual level, but I have an incredible love for every plant I've ever met. It's hard to say that about other aspects of life, but I've never met a plant I didn't love, that stung me or left a sticker in me or healed me. I'm on a large array of carefully fine-tuned regimen that Kiva set me up for, of herbs that we've known to have effect on me, evidence of effect, and still do. That's probably kept me vital for as long as it has. I mean, at my age, you're probably not supposed to be digging riverbanks and chopping all your own wood. I like hold me back. You can't keep me back. That's thanks to the plants. 3 years ago, we went into an emergency room for various things, and they told me I had to get my affairs in order. I had 3 months to live. Well, I feel like stopping by and getting high with them and letting them know, hey guys, that didn't fly. I don't
You
buy
should.
that. No one lives forever, but with the help of the plants, with the determination to be not just uninfected and undiseased, but rather to be wholly manifested, wholly vital, wholly physically engaged with the world, wholly excited to be alive. That's the life that we're looking for, not longevity, but being alive. And that's what the plants can give to us, as much as adding years to our lives can make our lives more significant, more fulfilled, more enjoyable, less stressed by symptoms, and more connected to a language and a lesson that we all need. I mean, in some of these, you always hear about, well, this may or may not work, or it works over time. But so many of the herbs that we use, if we get stung by a scorpion, it's immediate when we put some peach tincture or cherry tincture under our tongue and a little on the spot, and instead of spreading as a sting, it's gone. I mean, that's not conjecture. Doesn't require faith like politicians require faith, or some religions require faith. No, it works. And time and again, what I see in the natural world is it works. It works how they deal with their ecosystem. The medicines, the chemicals, the actions, the agents all work. The plants work to be a part and to give back to their world. And so everything that's in my medicine bag are things that are shown to us that we get immediate effect from. If I have a kidney stone attack, for example, silk tassel, and this can vary person to person. I'm not generalizing that, because every person is different. One of the things we teach in the plant healer is that everything has to be customized for the person, their constitution, their own energetics, their needs, their condition, their history, their willingness to take things, etc. So, but for me, silk tassel, gone. I can be in this incredible, intense pain, and within a matter of minutes, all of it is relaxed. The bladder's relaxed, everything's relaxed, and I'm no longer suffering. That's the kind of thing that propels not just a belief in herbalism, but an absolute certain knowledge of herbalism. And it's that knowledge that we're trying to then transfer and project to how we deal in our cultures, how we deal with each other, how we treat one another, what we put into our arts, whether it's writings or graphic or music or whatever. How we impact the world becomes just as crucial. That yes, it needs to be a great idea, but damn it, it needs to work.
You brought up art several times during this talk, and I just got to give you a shout out. Like, I love the term unmistakable. And anytime you see a Jesse Wolf Hardin piece of art, you're like, immediately who it is. So have you always been an artist, or I just feel like you're constantly drawing and constantly creating.
It's probably my favorite thing to do, even ahead of writing, which obviously with that many books out, I take great joy in writing, whether it's nonfiction or fiction. But if I could only do one thing, and of course I refuse to only do one thing, but it would definitely be to draw. That would be the one thing, apart from just being out in the natural world, living and making my fires and eating. It would be to draw something, to take a material of any kind and to see in it something that it can become, to be led by the material itself, its consistency, the amount of the shapes within the wood, all of these things, to have not just my imagination, but the material itself bring out something which didn't exist before. For me, that's wondrous. And what I try to do with my particular style of artwork is pass that wonder on. So I'm not trying to replicate old fantasy artwork by any means. In fact, I like that it stands out, as you say, it's identifiable. But it's meant to have some of not just the seriousness of the magic and the medicine, but rather some of the childishness that comes from being a young person still in a world of where nothing is impossible, where fantasy can be realized, where magic is real and definable and right before you. And I want to transmit that. I want my art to be an illustration of the world that we can all return to, a world that's both real and valid and dangerous and wondrous, but also a place of magic and the unknown and the mystique. And so if I can suggest that in any small way, wordlessly, with no real thinking involved, just create with the hands something that has never been seen before, that somehow or other brings on a reminder of magic and a prompt for delight.
When I was younger, art was my favorite thing, specifically hand drawing, just drawing and all that. And I don't think it's any wonder that once I became, I would say, like incredibly depressed, I completely stopped, which maybe some people would react differently. But for whatever reason, the creative spark just left. And then later I found, like playing basketball and stuff. And I claimed that was like a form of art for me, or like I'd say like a dance or something like that. But Amanda's like recently re-encouraged me. She's like, you should pick up drawing again. I'm very hesitant, and I don't know why, but after hearing you speak on that just now, I'm like, maybe I should pick up drawing, because I was actually a pretty decent artist. My dad's a really good artist too, and I feel like it's something I have a pretty decent knack for. But I just wanted to mention that because you do really have an unmistakable style.
Well, I highly encourage that you do it. And one thing about artwork compared to so much of what you and I do is that it can't be judged just by our reach and our effect, how many people we've helped, how many herbalists you've networked through Herb Rally. It's measured by the moment that you make the line on the paper. If nobody else ever sees it, and this is where I disagree with some people, the art does not require an audience to be art. At the moment that you're creating something that did not exist before, that has significance or meaning for you, then it's got a benefit to you. It helps define you. It helps you process things. It's relaxing. It's satisfying. It's exciting. It's plugging you into a part of yourself that you can unleash in so many other ways in your world and in your days.
Yeah, I would go so far as to say, let's say I did pick up drawing again, I probably wouldn't be sharing it on the internet. And I sure as shit didn't do it for social shares when I was a child. I did it purely for the joy of it. And I just picture, I'm getting goosebumps right now. I'm picturing like just drawing random like shapes and turning that into like a world. And like, I used to love that stuff. So
you're just, that's all it is, taking shapes and creating a world. And then as you're doing that, you're rewarding yourself, you're getting a break, it's blissful. It's, you're enriching yourself, but you're also developing the creative part of yourself that you then do. Because in Herb Rally, you're taking shapes that exist and you're recompositing them, mixing them up like into a new potion, taking, herbs that already exist, putting them all together in a way that then works to affect the world. And that is a creative venture that will be fed by every line you ever put to paper. And I insist that you get to it.
Well, okay. And I think the theme of this talk is the word now, because I keep having this idea in my head. Oh, I'm going to build Herb Rally to the point where it helps sustain us, and I'm able to then maybe back off a little bit.
Then I'll have time.
Yeah, exactly. I should just fucking do it right now. I need to start drawing. Okay. All right. The word is now, people.
Dude, lightning can hit you tomorrow, man. If you had a hand to hold, if you had a thought to share, if you had a tree to sit under, if you had a line to draw on the paper, do it.
Well, that's how it seems you live your life. You're very open with your love. You're open with your art. You just you live this way. And I really admire that about you. I do want to say, Wolf, it's been about an hour and I still have about maybe 3 questions. You got time for a few more?
Do it.
Sweet. So this next question is actually kind of selfish for me. I guess the last one was a little bit too, but you used in one of your last emails to me, you were referring to me as something about socionics. Socionics. Does that ring a bell?
Yes.
Okay. You said that my email style was socionics, and I felt like I could look it up, but I kind of thought that I knew what you meant, but I was just curious what you meant by that.
No, just the way you write helps establish you in a system of typing. Have you ever heard of MBTI?
No.
That's one I don't even think that much of it, but it's a personality test originally used for people that are hiring in businesses, so they know what kind of people to put in what kind of jobs. I don't find it terribly credible,
Yeah.
but there's another one called Socionics. Socionics came out of Europe. It's interpreted in a lot of different ways. Some of Kiva's favorites is like Spanish, you know. So at any rate, you can apply it to personalities in terms of, you know, what are their predispositions? What is their nature? And I'm always talking in my work about original nature. You know, what were we born with that we can develop? When are we straying from who we really are? You know, to have this sense of what our natures are. Not that we can't grow them or adapt them, but that then we know what our strengths are, our weaknesses, and we can act accordingly. Socionics is a system that very credibly, if you're correctly typed, allows you then to understand yourself in ways that you go, okay, that's why I do this thing. That's why I roll this way. You know, that's why I react to these things in this way. This is why this is hard for me and this is easy. You know, everything from force to acceptance to wanting to make everything right to, you know, there's all these different aspects. And Kiva's the best typist in this way. I don't even do it, and won't attempt to do you for that reason, because she's just so good at it. But when the typing's correct, it allows you to systemize an understanding of weaknesses, strengths, and more than anything else, your predilections, what you naturally will tend to exert or do in all situations. And anything that benefits self-understanding can benefit everything else we do in life, certainly including herbalism. When we know how and why we do what we do, we can do it better.
All right. Glad I asked. I knew I'd rather have your answer than Google. So, all right. Well, why don't we wrap it up with one more question? I'm going to read something you wrote. And then I just was hoping you could comment on it. I believe this was in your last either herbaria. I actually took it from your Instagram page. So you wrote, because we are corporal extensions of the same self-regulating whole we share in common with other life forms, the deeper that we engage in the natural world, the more we notice about it, the more familiar and intimate we become with it, the more clear we will be about our true selves, desires. Here, let me enlarge this. Okay. Challenges, gifts, choices, and purpose, and the better oriented we will be when it comes to being aware of presence and place, our destinations / goals, and the best direction to go to get there. And then you go on to say, for this we must not look to our studies or video screens, but to the actual physical, natural world, simultaneously revealing to us both its true complex self and ourselves. Look to the mountains and valleys, the vagaries of weather and reality of cycles, to the example of gently singing rivers that over time can carve their way through the rock, to a bear's solitary winter hibernation, demonstrating the importance of taking time to go within ourselves, to rest and reconsider, to the hummingbirds and their example of shaking out their torpor and awakening to the challenges and delights of life. And we might also look to the herbs and other plant forms for a modeling of growth and blooming. So I kind of was bringing this up earlier, and I guess my question is kind of simply around, do you have any advice or recommendations on getting the nature that we need to thrive and feel healthy, and then balancing that out with like this constant work and business and computer screens? I guess I'm just looking for some encouragement to get out there, and maybe it comes down to now. Maybe I just need to get the hell out into nature and just spend more time out there and just stop making excuses. But I'm just curious about your thoughts on that writing. It's, again, beautiful, but then just your thoughts on, just getting out there and healing ourselves.
Well, you know, the natural world is the greatest gift to us possible. It's the context. It's what we grew from, elements of ourselves we can see within the natural world. It's constantly giving us lessons on how to do various things, how to be more ourselves. Everything out there in the natural world is doing that. And it's so easy to get sucked into the civilized mindset. I mean, it's as much about getting sucked into your mind as it is to being sucked into having a lot of things to do, or living in a city, or having to be like I do on a computer so much of the time. It's we're always in competition with that thing, and we've got to make time for the other. What it is we have to integrate the other. We need to be, while we're looking at the computer, wild animals that are acting out of our wild selves, that are acting on our wild dreams and our lust and our wonder and our curiosity and our sharing. We need to surround ourselves with reflections of that. If it's just house plants, it's a reflection of that. If it's a tiny little windowsill garden of herbs, it's a way to reconnect with that. We cannot make it constantly a competition, or we will resent one or the other. What's necessary is we rewild ourselves in every moment of the day, and then no matter what we do, we're acting out of that wild place, out of a natural place of who we are naturally. When we talk about getting out of our houses, we also mean out of our minds. And whether it's through wildcrafting, finding some edible plants in your local park, just what you're growing in the yard, walking down the street, being able to connect with and identify the trees that are there, listening to the wind that passes through them, instead of just listening endlessly to our own thoughts, no matter how clever we think they are. Everything can be a portal to greater awareness and greater realization. And we can do that strictly indoors, and we'd be cheating ourselves. At some point, we have to bring outdoors in, and then we have to go one more step. We have to take ourselves out, outside the norms, outside our thoughts, outside our schedule, outside of what we're supposed to be doing today. And that's where everything happens, outside, out in nature. And it doesn't require wilderness. It requires just that we step out, be ourselves, in connection and interaction, in a relationship, with our mind quieted. Words can come out later, songs can come out later. But for the moment, we're just participants in what it means to be fully 100% real and alive. To not give yourself that daily is to cheat and to impoverish yourself. I have never met an herbalist whose information I fully respect, who's working primarily just out of books.
Right.
Their realizations come from mixing things and seeing how they work, but they also come from walking around crawling around on their knees to behold a plant closer, no matter how crazy people think they are when they walk by them. And that's not just where the intimacy happens, that's where we learn. That's how we become great herbalists, is to be a part of that, not just to be informationally in the know, not just reading the latest research, as helpful as that is, but to be part of nature. If you're going to be a natural healer, keep the nature in the healing.
When I first got into the herbal world, if you will, a lot of times I'd hear herbalists say some of their first mentors are the plants themselves. And I used to not really understand what that meant, but now, having spent enough time with plants, I totally get it. So
As it should be.
What's that?
As it should be.
Yeah, exactly. And then, it's let's give our herbal teachers props after that. But for now, the plants are the OG herbal teachers. So very well said. I want to plug the Good Medicine Confluence one more time, July 18th to the 22nd in Lake George, Colorado. You can learn more at planthealer.org. I want to say /gmc.html. I'll leave a link to that in the show notes. Of course, as always, check out Herbaria. That is Plant Healers. That's Wolf and Kiva's free monthly publication. You could get that via email. And then, of course, all of their many, 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 many books. And anything else you want to impart to the audience or plug to the Herb Rally audience, Wolf?
No, I just would like to remind them how wonderful Herb Rally is, how lucky they are to have it. And regardless of how many people see this, you're putting an energy out into the world that's needed. I don't know anybody else that can do it more personally and deeply than you. You're like a walking heart. The words follow, but it's the heart that gets it. And you're helping connect people to themselves, to each other, and to the plants. That's beautiful. I love you for who you are, and I love everybody to to access through Herb Rally in every way they can. You're a real giver, sir.
Oh, thanks, Wolf. That might almost be 2 episodes in a row where someone's going to try to make me cry or something like that. I really appreciate it. And again, I just want to reiterate to the audience, the theme of today's show, if you will, is just do it now. And Wolf, I want to give you permission on your next email to me. Feel free to ask me, did I draw anything? Because it's gonna be yes. I'm gonna make sure I will create one drawing before our next email. So thanks again for the kind words, and I'll leave it at that, and see you in the next episode. All right, we'll see you in the next Herbalist Hour. Bye, everybody. And that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the Herb Rally podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us here at Herb Rally, we now have a text message community, believe it or not. Basically, it's just updates from us. We send about 1 to 7 texts per week, notifying you about new events, videos, courses, podcasts. You get the idea. It's pretty much like our email newsletter, just in text form. So if you'd like to receive text messages from Herb Rally, just text JOIN, that's JOIN, to the number 541-256-2895. Again, that's JOIN to number 541-256-2895. And to stop receiving text, that's easy too. Just text STOP to the same number. It'll opt you out immediately. Okay, thanks again for listening. Have a great rest of your day.